Welcome back, viewers. Also today on the show we have three very prominent thinkers with us to do with different theories of learning and teaching. We have Dr. Jerome Brunner here to support discovery learning, Dr. David Kolb representing experiential learning, and Dr. William Perkey, sorry about that, Mr. Perkey, supporting invitational learning. Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
So just before we start, these series all sound remarkably similar when I go through and read various summaries on each one. They all seem to promote active engagement from the students. They all seem to have the student as a facilitator or a guide. Is this a fair assumption, Dr. Perkey? Are these things as similar as they sound?
Yes, thank you, George. My response would be no. These theories, while similar in some aspects, are indeed very different. Invitational theory, in particular, is far different to those other theories.
Right. Dr. Cole, would you agree with that?
Yes, I think I would.
Right. Okay then. So, Dr. Bronner, since we've established that these theories are quite different, I wonder if you could perhaps give us a brief summary of what discovery learning is and how one might recognise it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, George. Discovery learning takes place in problem-solving situations where the learner draws on his own experience and prior knowledge and is a method of instruction through which students interact with their environment by exploring and manipulating objects, wrestling with questions and controversies, and performing experiments.
Right, but that does sound remarkably similar to experiential learning. Dr. Cole, do you see it differently? Perhaps could you describe experiential learning in a way that doesn't sound similar to discovery learning?
Well, yes, George, I most definitely can. However, I wouldn't blame you for seeing the similarity, as Mr. Brunner's work has been based largely on the work and observations of John Dewey, among others, who has been also a large source of my own research.
Right, yes I see, but how then is experiential learning different to discovery learning?
Well, it's different in the way it's acted out, I guess. Discovery learning involves discovery, as Mr. Brunner stated. Learners draw on their prior knowledge and experience to make sense of things they are discovering in the world around them. Whereas experiential learning focuses more on the learning that comes from reflecting upon the experience.
Right, so, quite similar then.
In some ways, yes, but I don't think...
Sorry, Dr. Brunner, we're going to have to move on. Maybe we'll come back to you shortly. Mr. Perkey, you said that invitational theory in particular was quite different to these other theories. Would you like to back that up for our viewers, maybe with a brief summary of invitational learning and what it is?
Yes, absolutely. Invitational education asserts that every person and everything in and around schools adds to or subtracts from the process of being a beneficial presence in the lives of students. Ideally, the factors of people, places, policies, programs, and processes should be so intentionally inviting as to create an environment in which every person is cordially summoned to develop intellectually, socially, physically, physiologically, and spiritually.
Right, so what do you actually seek to achieve through this feeling of invitation?
Yes, that's a good question, George. The goal of invitational theory is to encourage individuals to enrich their lives in each of the basic four dimensions. The first one being personally inviting with oneself. The second being personally inviting with others. The third being professionally inviting with oneself. And four being professionally inviting with others.
Right, okay, so are there any ways in which you would support discovery or experiential learning as being a part of achieving some of this invitation?
Absolutely. Human existence is a cooperative activity where process is as important as the product. A basic ingredient of invitational theory is a recognition of the interdependence of human beings. Attempting to get others to do what is wanted without involving them in the process is a lost cause. Each individual is the highest authority in his or her personal experience. Given an optimally inviting environment, each person will find his or her own best way of being and becoming. So, in that light, any theory that involves inviting the learner into the environment where they learn best goes very well with invitational theory.
Right, thank you. Dr. Brunner, would you agree with that?
Partially. I don't think each individual is the highest authority in his own personal existence, but I definitely agree with the fact that process is one of the most important things in learning, and that we can't just feed information to our students and expect them to take it all in.
Well, why not? We've been doing that for years, haven't we?
Well, yes we have, but how many students, bright students, have we lost to unskilled labour because we've never got their attention and taught them how to learn things for themselves by discovering information in a way that was natural to them and connected to where they were at.
Okay, well I hear what you're saying, but what then does the role of the teacher look like in these experiences? Dr. Kolb, you seemed quite excited just then. What does the teacher do, say in experiential learning?
Well, there doesn't actually have to be a teacher in those situations. Experiential learning focuses on the learning process for the individual. It requires no teacher. It relates absolutely solely to the meaning-making process of the individual's direct experience. For example, a student might go to the zoo and learn through observation and interaction with the zoo environment, as opposed to reading about animals in a book. Thus, one makes discoveries and experience with the knowledge firsthand, instead of hearing or reading about others' experiences.
Don't you think we'd then end up with a bunch of kids running riot at the local zoo?
Yes, thank you, George. I thought that was coming. I didn't say there was no teacher at all, just that there doesn't necessarily have to be one. There should be someone who facilitates the learning and effective experiential... Sorry, I just lost my words there. There should be one who facilitates the learning, and an effective experiential facilitator is one who is passionate about his or her work and is able to immerse participants totally in learning situation, allowing them to gain new knowledge from their peers and the environment and stimulate imagination, keeping participants hooked on their experience.
So as long as the students are interested, they'll learn. My kids, for example, are interested in PlayStation.
Yes, but it's not quite as simple as that. The gaining of knowledge is an inherent process that occurs naturally, but for a genuine learning experience to occur, there must exist certain elements. Number one, the learner must be willing to be actively involved in the experience. Number two, the learners must reflect on that particular experience. Number three, the learner must possess and use analytical skills to conceptualize experiences. And finally, and fourthly, the learner must possess decision-making and problem-solving skills in order to use the new ideas gained from that particular experience.
So then, in light of those four things, would it be fair to say that wouldn't work for all students?
Yes, that's right. Well, I'd love to say that experiential learning is the way to go for all students. That just simply isn't the case. Some children need, and indeed enjoy, the direction and governance that comes from more traditional classroom environments. But I would add that there is a degree of experiential learning that takes place in every classroom as each child reflects on their own learning.
Right. Okay, well good. I've just got a couple of emails come through here from a couple of people. First one for you, Dr. Brunner. So this is from Justin of New Plymouth, and he says, "Hi George, always love your show. Thank you. Was wondering if inquiry learning is the same as discovery learning. Also, if you read this out on air, could you say happy birthday, Mum, from Justin?" Wow, happy birthday, Justin's mum. Hope you had a good day. Dr. Brunner, do you see inquiry learning as being the same as discovery learning?
Partially, yes. Discovery learning is definitely a method of inquiry-based instruction, but not completely the same. With inquiry learning, teachers create situations in which students are to solve problems. Lessons are designed so that students make connections to previous knowledge, bring their own questions to learning, and then investigate to satisfy their own questions, and design ways to try out their ideas. But with discovery learning, the emphasis is on being more student-directed, by learning naturally through discovery.
Right, okay. Thank you. And the other email here is from Marianne in Dunedin. And she says, "Hi George, fascinating discussion tonight. I'm a teacher in an intermediate school who employs a lot of problem-based learning. I find this works really well with my class, and I would like to ask Dr. Perky how he imagines invitational learning being incorporated into my style of classroom. Well, Dr. Perky, over to you.
Yes, well, first of all, Marianne, and good on you. Being a classroom teacher is a big job.
Yes.
And employing problem-based learning is a great way to engage your students. I see invitational learning fitting right in alongside with that for a couple of reasons, and here's why. Like I said earlier, a basic ingredient of invitational theory is a recognition of the interdependence of human beings. So group work, like we see in problem-based learning, is a great way to learn this. The other reason is that in invitational learning we believe that people are able, valuable and responsible and should be treated accordingly. An indispensable element in any human encounter is shared responsibility based on mutual respect. This respect is manifested in the caring and appropriate behaviours exhibited by people, as well as the places, policies, programs and processes they create and maintain. It is also manifested by establishing positions of equality and shared power.
Thank you. Marianne, I hope that helps. Keep up the good work. Well, we're just about out of time. I wonder, Dr. Kolb, if you could come up with a conclusion of sorts that promotes and accepts each of these theories for what they are, a way of serving children by seeking to understand how they learn best.
Yes, well, I believe most educators understand the important role that experience plays in the learning process. Whether it be an experience of discovery or one of being invited into an optimal learning space. A fun learning environment with plenty of laughter and respect for the learner's abilities fosters an effective learning environment. It is vital that students and individuals are encouraged to directly involve themselves in their learning in order that they gain a better understanding of the new knowledge and retain the information for a longer time.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time very much. Dr. Perky, Dr. Brunner and Dr. Kolb, your contribution to education is very much appreciated. And to your viewers, keep the emails coming. You can hear more on this information on our ePortfolio page, where we'll put on the scripts of these gentlemen so you can keep up with your own knowledge of learning and teaching. Like I said, keep the emails coming. We like to hear your views on our news. We'll cut to a break now and be back later.
Mr. Hill, there's something wrong with Scooter.
Don't worry about it. I kept the receipt.
Oops! Someone forgot to boost.
Mr. Hill, there's something wrong with Scooter. You saved Scooter! Yeah!
Minute Maid Enhanced with a natural energy boost. Put good in, get good out.